am for transparency. I think people assume salaries are confidential, but everybody knows what other people want. People discuss.
Yes.
So I tell people, instead of having to just open now an avenue for grapevine, let's make it as transparent as possible. And I'm not saying you tell people how much Jane earns, but there should be a guideline that we know all directors earn a minimum of this and then a maximum of this. And when you get to the capping, this is what happens. And there's a policy that clearly states when people are coming here, what is the minimum they can start? If they're above the minimum, what should they earn? And what benefits do we have in our benefits basket? And what is our pay philosophy? If it's a pay raise, how do we make those decisions? So that then it is very clear and people don't feel like they're being discriminated internally by the same policy of people that are supposed to be giving them, some level of equity.
People pros, and welcome to the People Champion podcast by ElevateHR. This is the 4th episode of our new segment, which we're calling the People Companies Impact Stories, where we feature exceptional people leaders who are doing impactful work. Now, you are going to love today's guest. She is the epitome of grace, influence, and power. She is an award-winning HR mentor and coach. She is a thought leader in the HR space. She has over 15 years of experience in the space in different industries, ranging from startups, non-profits, for-profits, corporates, you name them. She's been there, done that, got a t-shirt to prove it. But she's also the Vice President for Women in Africa, the Kenyan Envoy for the World Women Organization, and she's currently the founder and the Managing Director and HR Projects Director at Career Management Center, which is a HR consulting firm. She's also a member of the Institute of Human Resource Management. She's a member of the Talent Council and the Vice President of the Nairobi HR Ingo Roundtable. She's also the recipient of numerous awards, HR Mentor of the Year, and very recently she's been recognized as one of the top 50 most influential women in Kenya 2024. Come on now. Congratulations, first of all, on this recent award, and welcome to the show. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your journey leading up to this moment.
Wow. So I'll try to focus just on the professional part of the journey.
Yes, please.
And let me start with what I studied. I studied biochemistry, BSc Biochemistry, University of Nairobi. And after graduation, I went for a postgraduate in HR, Human Resource Management. And after that, got internship like everyone, worked for different organizations, the PPC, International Medical Corps, and several others, up to the year 2016.
First and foremost, how do you move from biochemistry to HR?
I happened to go for an internship that made me move from different departments. So I went to engineering, I went to sales, I was in the lab where I spent most of my time. I went to HR and all that. So I actually felt like I was really at home in HR, the kind of assignment that they're doing at that particular time. Also, you'll be very surprised that there are very many people who know that jobs are applied through the HR office, but they don't know where that is studied. So for me, I was very shocked during that internship to realize that there's actually a college that people go to study this. And I was like, oh, then this is what I happen to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would say that you're one of the most successful HR leaders in the space that I have met. So what would you attribute your success to?
I think I would say, first of all, just being a long life student. I'm always eager to learn. When I see people asking things or sharing things, then I don't assume the knowledge I have is still what is working. I'll be able to go out of my way, be able to research. You'll be very surprised to learn that I have a very big database of frequently asked questions by HR people. And then they ask and I'm able to research. And if they ask that for the 5th time, then I don't even need to research. I'll be like, yes, but my research for this particular year, then this would work. Check here, make a reference here. So I would say being able to be open to learning, being able to go out there and the deliberate purpose to meet new people that are not just in HR, but the people that consume from the HR department. If it's a CEO's group, you'll find me in such conversations. If it's finance groups, you'll find me in such conversations. Why? I want to just understand, because they're the consumers of what the HR department, and in other groups. And most important, also being able to give back. when people ask about all those other things that they'll keep asking about, what is ABCD, what is happening here, I never shy away from sharing and just being able to give back and mentor and all that. I think as a result, you end up learning too much.
Oh, wow.
In the process, yeah.
I love that aspect of, leading with value and the fact that you're a continuous learner. Beautiful. What would you say are some of the aspects of HR that you enjoy the most? I know you've been in the space for 15 years. Quite a long time. What do you enjoy the most?
So HR has very many functions, like
Yes.
And I'll start with what all of us call about the HR, the recruitment. So I enjoy recruitment. I really enjoy recruitment and how we do it at Career Management Center. If you want us to hire for you someone, I'll first have a conversation with you as a hiring manager to just understand what exactly are you looking for. I would never run with an advert.
Really?
Before I get to understand your mind as a hiring manager. Not the HR manager, the hiring. The person that will come and manage this particular person. After that, I'm able to just go to the market and we're able to get at least 3-5 people that the manager will be like, oh my God, who do we pick? This was such a good shortlist. And I just love that. Why do I love that? Because also from recruitment, you get to meet so many job seekers. And as a career coach, I'm able to now be able to build very authentic, very original content that I can now swing and give to job seekers in terms of this is where I see most people niching, this is where I be. So I feel like recruitment cuts my both worlds as a career coach and as a HR person. So I love it. HR has many functions. We also have job evaluation, we have organizational planning, we have just aligning the people function on its own to be able to support the strategy. So if you look at that aspect of HR supporting the strategic plan of the organization, then you realize it's a beautiful circle that I can't even pick and tell you that it's this. Why do I say that? For instance, for companies that we support from a strategic HR perspective, I want to understand what is your strategic plan. Do you have the structure in terms of the people that will help you achieve this? Do you have the skills? It could be that you have to hire new people, or maybe we are saying we have to train the following people, and therefore coming up with different training programs that are very specific for that team, not generic, but for that team, and just working with teams to develop those competency programs, competency mapping that is very specific for those different programs. Being able to talk about the leadership style as part of that, which still lies in HR, ensuring that the leadership team that we have, the culture of the organization, all those are things that fall in the arms of the HR, and they are very, very, very important. You can have everything else, but if those various elements are not aligned, and therefore for me, that's where I enjoy playing HR at. Helping organizations come up with appropriate structures. I call them optimal structures for the organization, for the departments, and even the bigger picture. Being able to determine the skills that are required, the number that is required for us to be able to work and do ABCD, the skills that are required, and most important, the culture and the leadership philosophy in that organization. Aligning that, when you achieve that as a HR, then it feels very, very, very nice.
Wow. Yeah. I'd like us to, for the purpose of this conversation, to talk about also one of the most important aspects of HR, which is compensation.
Awesome.
So I know you also deal with that at Career Management. So first question, just first and foremost, what would you say are some of the important factors when you're determining an employee's compensation?
So first of all, the law gives the minimum wage. So if you have to go to that level, then make sure that you're paying above the minimum wage. So there's what you call the minimum wage by law that's given every Labor Day, I guess, in Kenya. Then we have the minimum living wage. So as an organization, you have to determine that you want to give the minimum wage, which they may not be able to live with, or you want to be a good employer and give what you call the minimum living wage. We will start looking at, if I pay them this, can this person afford accommodation? Where? Can they afford their bus fare even to the office? Can they afford to take their kids to school? Even just one child to school? Can they afford healthcare if you're not giving that? So those are some of the factors that we consider. We also consider sometimes what the market is offering, because you also want to be competitive, and you're not hiring from somewhere else. We are hiring from the same market. So if you're not competitive in terms of that, then sometimes you really struggle. And I know I have had a school of thought where people say you don't compete on money. You actually compete on money. There are times that you keep hiring and you keep losing all the guys that you hire. You become a training ground simply because you can't pay them. And therefore that external comparison of what the market is paying, especially for unique skills, it becomes very, 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 very important. So there are many factors. So internally again, there are factors that we look at when you're saying how much then do we pay this particular job and ABCD. I guess we'll talk about it at some point, just to understand how do we determine then as an assistant level we pay them this, an officer we pay them this, a manager we pay this. But in the bigger picture, you must have a pay philosophy that guides your pay decision. How do people progress in their pay? From maybe if they work for you for the next 5 years, how do they progress in that? And when that misses, then people will keep coming to your office asking for a pay rise. And you'll keep maybe feeling like you're very stuck as HR or as a CEO, because then you don't know how to make that particular decision. You don't know how to give this person 5% and deny the other person, and you have no criteria. So there must be a very clear procedure. Do we do performance driven? Do we do collar? Do we do what exact? How people progress? Do we do an anniversary? Do we do something to just retain the employees? How do you compare with the external market? So all those are factors that you have to keep looking at in terms of when you're determining what should they go for.
So I think you've partially alluded to this, but would you say that compensation generally and largely affects, employee motivation and performance and engagement?
I think I will not add to performance, because then that's a very different. Let me first say, does it affect engagement? So different people, depending on their level of the level in the career rather. When people are entry level, money is a big factor for them.
Absolutely.
It's a big factor, because then you want to be able to just meet your obligations. If you have a job that you can't pay rent, you can't pay your bus fare, you can't buy a car, even if you want to buy a car, you want to go back to school, it is not meeting the basics of what you want to do. And remember, we also have who we call the working poor. People who are working, but then they are being paid very low. Nothing will make them stay there if someone offers them something extra. Nothing will make them stay there. As long as they know they will stay, because maybe they think that is a general condition in the market. But if someone tells them you can apply for this job and you'll get 20,000 more, trust me, they will not sleep. Applying for those and doing everything for them to just be able to move. And why it's a factor also is because sometimes when people are not paid very well, and I'm most saying side hustles are for this, but there are people who will do even 10 things just to be able to meet their obligations. So yes, pay is a big factor. Is a big factor for being an employer of choice, but it has to be a mix. It has to be a mix of different things that make that. Some people will argue that as long as someone else can pay your employees more than you're paying, then it is not a competitive factor. But it is. I'll keep saying it is, depending with what level we're talking about. So as you go up that ladder, you realize that as you become CEOs, even senior managers, sometimes at manager level, you're able to even trade some money for something different. Like you could be looking for growth. Maybe you just want to move from being an officer to a manager, or from a manager to a director, and maybe those two roles are paying maybe the same. Like you could just move for the same amount of money or even for less. But at that particular point, the money you're earning is already meeting your basic minimum needs, and you're able to save. There are people who say they don't save. So for that particular person, you really can't tell them that money is not a big factor.
Yeah, true.
It's a big factor.
I totally agree with what you've just said. I recently stumbled upon a report by Glassdoor. So they said 68% of the participants of that survey listed compensation as the number one factor that they consider when they're accepting a job. But surprisingly, when it comes to performance, it doesn't really have that huge of an impact. In fact, they called it like more of a hygiene factor. Like, when
it is missing,
it's an issue. But when there's more and more of it, it's really not that big of a factor.
Exactly. And I agree with that survey. So I'll tell you from exit surveys, because when people are leaving, even engagement, when you do an employee engagement survey and you're asking people, what would make you leave? And you give them those factors, maybe the work environment, maybe your boss, maybe your pay and stuff to do with that. You'll still realize that very many of them will actually say my workload and then the pay.
Or the culture.
Even culture will be mentioned. But there are people who would not move even if they go another job, as long as it's not they're able to keep their money and all that. Culture is equally important. But you'll find that depending with where you pay, some people who pay very well, then the culture becomes a problem. Sometimes also you pay and you don't have equity. That lack of internal equity causes so much trouble, regardless of how much you're paying. So it's a big topic. It's a big topic that needs that is not just about what I'm taking home, but people look at it in different. Why is Pindi earning 2 times what I earn? Yet we are peers. Yet I am her boss. So some of those things, regardless of how much you're paying, they cause a lot of discomfort. But in terms of performance, apart from the sales guys that I know it works with directly, because if you are being told you sell this, you get this commission. It's like something different. You know what I mean? It has a direct correlation with what you take home, and therefore it's what I was telling you about the carrot and stick. You are dangling that carrot, sell more, get this carrot. Sell more, get this carrot.
Yeah.
And they sell and sell and sell and sell. So not all departments are able to be tied to that. There are times you can even have very expensive people because of the time that they have taken to be in the organization. But their delivery does not even match a quarter of some people who are earning very low compared to them. Yeah, so I wouldn't say a lot of cash goes with performance. Performance is a factor of very many things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'd like us to double down on like a previous thought that you had, especially when it comes to benefits. What would you say are some non-monetary benefits that now employees are more keen on and that employers should integrate in their compensation packages?
Awesome. I think it will depend from industry to industry. But some of the things that we have seen recently is something to do with like even flexible working hours. People nowadays, I can tell you for free, almost in all the interviews, someone will ask you, is this job remote? Is it a hybrid? So that has become a benefit. It has become the new way, and people are determining, do I want to go to the office every day? And they turn down, just because they do not want to be. That's a benefit that has come, and it's part of what people have to consider, that we are not able to deliver online. Can we have a hybrid? Because then when it is 100% remote, it has its own repercussions. So people just want to see, do we have a balance between that and ABCD? People have changed in terms of pension. People want their money today. They want to invest in things that can give them money. And if you start talking about pension of, you're giving me a 2-year contract job or a 6 months contract, and we're discussing pension that I have to keep moving after every 5 years with, what is the alternative? What is the alternative? We're talking about transport allowance for guys who are working from home. So what are the benefits we'll be talking about? Is it Wi-Fi allowance? Is it an home office allowance? There are so many things that the way the world has changed, so much has changed. So much has changed.
What do you think of the 4-day work week? Do you think Kenyans are ready for it?
It will depend on the workload and also the industry. Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. But it can be pursued. I would imagine at one point people are working Monday to Monday. So now that the law allows for us to rest in Kenya for a Sunday, I guess people would pursue and get to maybe at least 6 days. Saturday, here you work for 6 days, not even 5. Legally, you work for at least only one rest day.
Only one rest? Okay.
Yeah, legally, it's one rest day.
Wow.
If your boss is giving you 2 days off, it's because they choose to give you as a benefit. But legally, in the Employment Act, it is everybody must at least have one rest day per week. So we are actually on a 6 days work week.
Damn. So it actually depends. All right.
I think so.
So I'd like us to get into what you mentioned, equity. So first and foremost, how should companies communicate compensation to their employees? Are you pro transparency when it comes to salaries? Oh, yes.
I am for transparency. I think people assume salaries are confidential, but everybody knows what other people want. People discuss.
Yes.
So I tell people, instead of having to just open now an avenue for grapevine, let's make it as transparent as possible. And I'm not saying you tell people how much Jane earns, but there should be a guideline that we know all directors earn a minimum of this and then a maximum of this. And when you get to the capping, this is what happens. And there's a policy that clearly states when people are coming here, what is the minimum they can start? If they're above the minimum, what should they earn? And what benefits do we have in our benefits basket? And what is our pay philosophy? If it's a pay rise, how do we make those decisions? So that then it is very clear and people don't feel like they're being discriminated internally by the same policy of people that are supposed to be giving them, some level of equity.
I love that. I think I'm also pro transparency, maybe to the extreme end, but yeah. So speaking of equity, I know we still have a long way to go when it comes to that, but how can organizations ensure that they support or advance equity when it comes to their employees?
In the organizations.
Yeah.
Awesome. So there's a process that we call a job evaluation. And in a job evaluation, part of the output is job grades that tie to the pay grades. So you look at different factors like a factor like, does this job make decisions or not? What is the working environment? Do they make decisions or not? What is the impact of error for this particular job? Some jobs will have very huge impact of error. Like I like giving the example of the way you have someone deciding how to make your house and what pillars to use for the strength of your house to stand. If they make a mistake in the mixing, in the advisory and all that, you'll only see that crack 3 years down the line. You have paid them, they have gone. So you better get a very good person to handle that for you when you're doing the building, and all that. Even to advise you where to buy. If you get that advice and then there's a mistake, the cost is humongous. Some other decisions would be, there's a mistake, we can just it immediately and it can be rectified immediately. So there are very many factors that we use in getting those particular jobs. The external relations, someone who goes to represent you to the investors is very different from someone who doesn't leave the organization at all, just lives with other colleagues in the office.
Yeah.
Those two require different levels of skills and they have to be paid differently. So using those parameters, we call them compensable factors. We are able to now come up with different grades to ensure that people are put jobs of equal value are put in the same band, and there's a justification for why these two jobs are being paid the same, and the person making that decision can actually explain why you can be paid what you're asking, because this is where we are until the time that we make this particular. So that making sure that you have very clear grades, and of course the policy issue that I told you about, and also having transparency in how those decisions are made.
I really think all companies should implement the bands and the grades. It's just so much easier. But what do you think about performance-based pay? Do you think compensation should be a tool for performance management?
For me, I like separating.
Why?
Yeah, because it's sometimes you can't even quantify. It's a more subjective process. Part of why some people even hate that particular process is because if then I'm going to give you a pay raise based on that, and I can't measure, maybe like they were saying you moved 5 bricks from here to here, or you sold ABCD, because some jobs, they're not that, you will not be able to measure. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
And there are many factors also in the performance. So I am not for combining compensation with pay, apart from jobs. Some jobs like the sales, whereby we're able to give people, you did ABCD, this. If we have to do that for other companies, I've seen us sharing the bonus. So everybody works.
Everybody, and then at the end,
at the end of the day, then we have a bonus that is put in a pot, and they see this is our net profit, and we would want to share this with everybody in the business. But we must have made a profit in the business. They can go further if they're able to do that and see per department, how did you contribute, if it is doable. It's not an easy process. So most people who combine the two, it ends up becoming a weapon for destruction in the organization.
I see how.
People get back to each other, like if I'm your boss, just wait for their appraisal.
That's unfortunate, actually.
It happens a lot. You'll be surprised, yeah.
Wow.
And sometimes you just can't quantify why I'm getting a 4% and my colleague is getting 10%.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So when companies are designing compensation and designing and implementing these compensation packages, what are some of the legal and ethical considerations that they should have in mind?
The first one is provided for in the Kenya law, and I think even in the ILO conventions, is what I just said about the equal pay for equal work done. If two people are doing almost jobs of the same value, don't discriminate them. Or you start giving people that decision based on other parameters like their gender, I don't know, their tribe, whatever that it is. So there should be no discrimination. And that's why it's very important for people to be able to have those bands as part of ensuring that we actually comply with that law of equal pay for equal value of jobs.
Yeah.
The other one is what I told you about the minimum wage. Don't pay people below that. And then also very important that you understand the different things that the government say, this one is a must, this one is ABCD, and maybe just transfer one of the risks. Some laws will talk about housing allowance, transport allowance, ABCD, and most HR will tell you that the reason they give consolidated pay, if they're not going to break that down to a basic and this and this and this, they'll give you a consolidated pay because then it takes care of all that. Then we don't have to say, even what you're giving me as housing allowance can't pay a house anywhere in this town, Yeah. And it caused a lot of trouble for very many people, yeah.
So I want us to actually now talk about payroll compliance. What would you say are some of the challenges that organizations face? I know you've also handled this area quite a bit.
Ghost workers.
Ghost workers? Yes. Why?
Ghost workers is one of the biggest challenges where if you don't have controls, because again, if you're managing a payroll system, it's very important that you have internal control framework. Who prepares, who reviews, who approves, how do we ensure that, especially when you have a big workforce, then you're not paying people who already, and you have seen it a lot in the government also, even the private sector, where people are still being paid and they're
Even in the private sector?
Yeah, because if internal controls fail, too bad. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
because then you'll find that someone is not even coming to work, but we haven't noted that they're not coming to work, and therefore they're still on the payroll, they're still being paid when you should have stopped that particular payment long time ago. So that is one of the riskiest things. The other thing is compliance. Are we remitting what we should be remitting? Are you up to date? Because again, all those things that you hear as the deductions, if you don't remit on time, there are penalties. So as an employer, you end up paying so much, and that's why I always encourage people to work with software providers for, like, even for payroll. Why? Most of them will even put the new laws that have come, if it's the housing, like whatever that is, they embed it in the system. So you do not even have to know. You can only ask them that I know this has changed. What has changed? But if you're doing payroll, very important that you actually stay with your attendance alert, just in case something changes. You don't complain, it becomes very, very, very expensive for you to comply. So sometimes also the deductions. You find that maybe you have employed an employee and you're treating them as a consultant, and therefore the deductions are not what you should be deducting and remitting to the organization. Sometimes people deduct and don't remit. All those things. That are some of the issues that we see in terms of compliance.
And I love that you said that people should use software providers to address some of these challenges. And I think that is where companies like ours come to mind. Like ElevateHR, for instance, I think that's one of the things that we help people with to stay compliant. Those errors in payroll can be quite costly. Yeah. So I think at this point, I'd just like to say, if you're out there looking for a payroll partner, please, we are here, we're your plug, and you can also outsource your entire HR function to us. We'll be able to sort you out while you focus on your people. All right, so...
And I can say I've used that particular software, and it's beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, all the functions that's able to do so. It's a software that I would also recommend.
What should people be looking for when they're looking for payroll software?
First of all, do you have access to your reports? Because a software payroll should be able to do for you some basics. Like when you run the report for the month, are you able to get the variance reports, the carry report, the statutory reports, the whatnot? Are you able to get pay slips and even mail them to the different people? What else can it hold for you? P9, all those things that should actually be able to be automated. So a payroll software should actually remove the whole of that load of, before the tech craze and all that, people would be working a file this big, just verifying who came, who did what, and ABCD. Yeah, so the system should just be able even to even remind you. If it's a good system, it should even tell you this contract is expiring in the next 30 days. Or this contract is already terminated. And the system, the payroll system will even remove that particular from the payroll for that particular month. Even if you don't remove, they will drop it. So you can actually, there's a variance because this month we processed less employees than there was last month. Yeah, so a good system, and it should also be user-friendly. Don't go for something that requires you to take 3 weeks training to just understand how the system works.
Yeah.
Should be easy.
I love that. So reports are simple and easy to use. And those are some of the design principles that we had in mind when we were designing the software. We wanted anybody who can understand English, basic English, to be able to use it. Anyway, so back to now compensation and benefits. What would you say are some of the emerging trends in the sector?
Some of the emerging trends in the sector. Let me first of all just say that we have the gig economy. Where people are doing jobs with different employers. So if you're working for 3-4 employers, and I think I saw one of the parliamentarians trying to drive this in parliament, I can't remember who exactly it is, so let me not mention them, but I think I saw a bill towards this. We have people who are doing the gig economy. They're working 4 hours here, they're working 2 hours here, they're doing ABCD. Are they losing? Are they losing on their social protection? So we know people work. At some point, you have to stop watching an ABCD. We all know that employers keep pension, retirement benefits, and stuff like that for people. There are benefits that normal employees get. So with this gig economy, where you're employing part-time people, they come, they deliver this for you, they move on to someone else, they deliver this for you. Either we empower them to know that they have to put some of their things in order as if they're their own employers, like a pension, like medical, like ABCD, all those things. Or we come up with a policy at the government level, not at the organizational level. We can do organization, but if the government does, then the impact is huge and everybody is protected. So I think that is one of the emerging trends that I keep hoping at some point the government will actually look at it and know that the world has changed. The world has changed in terms of how it is no longer the way you would go 8-2.
It's true.
8-9.
Yeah.
If you look at leave, it should be given to those of us who are going from Monday to December, January to December.
Yeah.
Then you're given 21. So if I'm not working there full time, at the same time I'm not a consultant maybe, then how do we address some of those things? So we have to start looking at if this for sure, these are changes that are coming to the space, then how do we align so we don't use, just years provisions in this particular market and then people don't appreciate what you're saying you're giving them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's actually an interesting take. So the last question, what leadership legacy do you want to leave behind?
Wow. I would want to leave a leadership legacy where I am people oriented, and I would want to lead people. Not I'd want a balance between getting work done and getting people involved and all that. But if I was to lean, it would be more on empowering the people, helping them do what they thought was impossible, and just inspiring them to go to their next level. So I would want a legacy whereby in the field of HR, if I was to speak for HR, where I leave a mark that is positive and that goes beyond what HR is currently known for. I would want HR to move to that strategic level, like I spoke when we were starting, about knowing that we align the organization with so many elements from the skills to the quality of staff, to the leadership, to the culture, things that are soft, but they actually affect so many aspects of how the strategy gets to be done. So away from the traditional functions of recruitment, documentation, labor law compliance, and those other things, just make it the workplace in a way that we can actually support using the people pillar. So I'd want to leave to the ones that I work with, to organizations, the ones that I work with, I'll always tell them about the 3-legged stool. And that one leg is actually the employees, the people. And them knowing that they can have the best structure, they can have the best products. But if this leg of that 3-legged stool, we have the financial, the stakeholders, the customers, these are the one can only be the human beings, the people that deliver that strategy, the people that take this product to the market, the people that take care of your customers. So if this is not well taken care of, it doesn't have to be in terms of money, but in terms of the things that I've just spoken about, the culture, the leadership, of course, paying them well, and those other factors, then the business can never thrive. And that's what I would want to be the legacy from my HR perspective. As a person, I would want to be known as someone who shared what I had, be it knowledge, anything that would make people move, and even for us to win together would be what I would go for.
Wow, yeah. And what a beautiful legacy that is.
Thank you.
I just want to assure you that even as it stands right now, you have left such an indelible mark in the lives of so many young professionals. And I say that confidently because of just of the feedback we've gotten from some of the community members. Every time we have you on, people are always looking forward to just joining in and hearing what you have to say. So thank you so much for being on this podcast, for the work that you're doing for the HR space, and congratulations on all your achievements.
Thank you so much. You're also doing a very good job even hosting this podcast and all the work that you do for HR. If you don't tell you also, you do a good job.
Oh, thank you for giving me my flowers.
Yes, fantastic.
And remember, if you're at home and you're looking for software to help you run your employees' payroll, leave, and performance, we got you. So sign up on the link below to book a demo with us. Till next time, bye.
Bye-bye.